Chapter 7 The Moon. There are perhaps more stories, myths, and legends connected with the moon than any other planet. This is not surprising when one considers the inventiveness of human imagination and the fact that the moon is our nearest neighbor in the solar system. In early days, man could see only two planets, the sun and the moon. When the sun ruled during the day, he worked, but at night he observed far more. He watched the moon, noticed that it, like the sun, appeared to move around the earth, and that it also had phases. Gradually, he observed that the tides responded to these phases and that seeds sprouted better during the moon's increase. Women, who are naturally far more sensitive than men, felt these subtle changes and responded to them. With the passage of time and with the usual knack of presuming rather than thinking, the science of magic became the worshipping of sun god or moon goddess, and has not improved since. There is a great deal of difference between the scientific use of the lunar tides and the meaningless hodgepodge of superstition now known as moon magic. So we will now look at the problems and the truth of the matter. If you wish to gain control over these energies, classified as lunar, or indeed any planetary energy, it is better to adopt the following plan of action. 1. Throw out superstition and other misconceptions. 2. Learn how to attune to the planetary energy. 3. Adopt a sensible technique for directing the energy. Clearing the way. There is probably more rubbish written and spoken about the moon than any other planet, and if your magical work is to be successful, it is vital that you reject this in favor of reality. Remember that whatever you accept without careful thought may well become a pattern of belief, and as you now know, belief gets results. It therefore makes profound sense to accept only those things which happen to be true. For instance, you can, like many people, continue to believe that the moon actually exerts some mystical effect on this earth. If you do, you will inhibit yourself and block your ability to be effective as an occultist. Far better to realize that, apart from the obvious magnetic effect of the moon on the sea or on plant growth and so forth, the moon is not the source of some strange type of energy. In magical matters, it is purely symbolic. It really is quite amazing how people willingly accept some dogma which restricts or inhibits them in some way. This is essentially true in magic. Take, for instance, the idea of the light and dark moon. The light side is considered to be suitable for white magic, while the dark side is allotted to works of evil or black magic. Do bear in mind that there is no such thing as black and white magic. There is only magic. Without discussing this point at length, it is all a question of the intentions of each individual. What is good for one person may well be evil to another. You can see this quite clearly if you tell a priest that you are an occultist. He will condemn you and your work as evil without so much as a second thought, even though you class yourself as a white magician. The truth is that each one of us must decide what is good or evil and act accordingly rather than accept the definitions of others. There are some good rules to follow, such as do unto others as you would be done by. In other words, be yourself, act in whatever way you wish, and think as an individual, but try not to affect others adversely by seeking to deprive, restrict, or constrain them. There are many great truths behind the idea of light or darkness, but to equate these with the phases of the moon is, to say the least, stretching a point. Likewise, the idea of using the light side of the moon for magical work and the dark side for meditation is self-limiting and not in agreement with the laws which govern cosmic tides. Generally speaking, you can perform magical work at any phase of the moon. That is, unless you accept this restriction. There are other unrealistic concepts such as those which imply that the new moon is good for beginnings. This may well be true for planting seeds, but it is not necessarily true for you. The truth of the matter is that unless the new moon forms an aspect to some important point in your birth chart, it will have little effect. This is also true of any other phase of the moon, so do not waste valuable time waiting for the right phase. The chances are that you will not improve your magical work because you are accepting an unreal belief. The moon is said to rule the astral plane, that strange place, beloved of astral travelers, in which all manner of nasties and other undesirable entities are supposed to dwell. In the first instance, there is no such place as the astral plane. It is a condition of mind which belongs under the heading of imagination. Likewise, astral traveling is not really a form of movement by a detachable part of our body. It is simply another way of using the imagination to affect our subconscious minds. Although the experience of astral travel may therefore seem very real, it is not real in the true sense of the word. What really happens is that the subconscious mind produces an accurate picture of some distant place and gives the illusion of actually being there. The experienced traveler does see these places quite vividly, and therefore makes the natural mistake of presuming that he has actually moved in a physical sense. The plain truth is that the subconscious mind is producing what can be loosely described as a 3D television show, complete with sound, sense, and even atmosphere. Such is the power of the subconscious mind. It is also possible not only to choose some predestined location, but also to move backwards through time so that the traveler can experience past events. Some people make the mistake of presuming that this equates to some past life. Once again, there is no truth in this rumor. Perhaps the greatest problem with all lunar magic is that the moon rules a powerful part of our minds, the imagination. This may be used to create, or it can be very deceptive to the unwary. This is one reason why the so-called astral plane has something of a bad reputation and has given rise to stories of astral entities and illusions. There are no entities in the astral or anywhere else, and the only illusions or deceptions are those which belong in the minds of people. Used correctly and in the absence of superstition, the imagination is perhaps the most powerful tool at your disposal. Used wrongly or allowed to get out of control by either daydreaming or believing in fantasy, it can literally run you around in circles. Your own astral plane, imagination, then becomes filled with all manner of fears and phobias, which can easily be confused with intangible spirits, fate, karma, and so forth. Attuning to the Moon, Part 1. In order to make your magical work more successful, it is necessary to attune to each of the planetary energies. This is done by increasing our awareness of a particular energy, learning about it, and getting the feel of it. There are many ways to do this. Firstly, we should look at ourselves, in particular those parts of ourselves which are ruled by the planet in question. In the case of the moon, we should start by looking at habits. All through life, we acquire habits, some good, some bad. Habits are automatic reactions performed without thinking and therefore have their roots in the subconscious mind. It is in everyone's interest to break bad habits by first questioning them and then replacing them with better patterns of behavior. By doing this, we not only remove what is essentially a restriction on ourselves, but also we open up channels along which better things may materialize. Take, for instance, the habit of negative thinking. A person who suffers from this will face all problems with a sense of defeat and despair, without really thinking about it. It is an automatic reaction, a bad habit, and unless it is replaced with a better habit, that of positive thinking, life continues to be a misery. The answer is simple: change the habit. Once this is done, life is bound to be far more fruitful. Look at yourself and your habits, question them, and then replace the bad ones. Some habits are required from other people, and many are implanted when we are very young. One further group can be classified under the heading of repetition. It is a well-known fact that if you repeat something often enough, it is learned. In other words, it becomes habitual. Speaking, writing, walking, and using a knife and fork are some obvious examples. This can be made use of in the form of affirmations. Before the educational system started to collapse, it used affirmations to teach children. One such example was the learning of multiplication tables, or those little rhymes used to help retain important facts in the memory. One such example is I before E except after C. If something is repeated over and over again, it will be memorized. If we take matters in a little further and repeat some statement with feeling and belief, this too goes into the memory where it is acted on by the subconscious mind. This is the principle behind affirmations. The church used this to good effect in order to convince us that we should fear God, otherwise our sins would lead us to eternal damnation. On a more positive front, the affirmation may be used to much better effect by improving the quality of our by improving the quality of our lives. There are some ready made affirmations in various mind power books. However, you can and should make up your own. This is quite easily done by first deciding what you wish to achieve and then putting this into a simple sentence. Let us suppose that you wish to become self confident instead of being shy and filled with fear. Remember that shyness is a habit and that you are about to replace this with a better one. A useful statement would be, fear and shyness go away, confidence is here to stay. This statement may at first appear to be childlike and pointless. It is not. If repeated often, 10 to 20 times, whenever you have time to spare, and especially if said with conviction, it is bound to have an effect. The more you say affirmations, the better and quicker the results will be seen, especially if these are repeated just before you go to sleep. For at this time, your conscious mind is less likely to get in the way by presenting all manner of thoughts and concerns which have little to do with your intention. Use affirmations, they are a valuable tool. Emotions. People with little control over their emotions are likely to achieve very little and are easily thrown off balance by the slightest upset. Learn to calm down and control them. Refuse to be impulsive and stop being touchy or moody. These things do no good whatsoever. They are bad habits, and the sooner you are rid of them, the better for everyone, because you are damaging yourself and draining away energy in addition to annoying others. Sensitive people are easily molded by whatever comes along and inevitably used by other people. Remember that it is one thing to be sympathetic and understanding, it is another to be a crutch for those who will not help themselves by being emotional without applying common sense. Emotion is also a powerful magical tool, if under control. It is one of three. The power of thought and the use of the imagination are the other two. We have all seen what can happen when someone is determined or fired up. He is bound to succeed because the emotions are being used in a positive manner. Learn to use your emotions like this. In other words, if you want something, be determined that you will have it. When using creative thinking, either during rituals or at other times, use your imagination to see what you want while adding the extra dimension provided by the emotions. Be determined and desire to have whatever it is that you see. There's nothing wrong with desire, so ignore those half-baked philosophies which insist that desires are evil and wrong. The extremists insist that all desires should be subjugated or done away with. This is not only silly but virtually impossible. Any man or woman without desires is as good as dead. Desire is a powerful tool and it is perfectly natural, so use it. In addition, you bring your feelings into your creative thinking by not only seeing what you want, but by feeling that you already have it. This takes a little practice, but it is not as difficult as you may think. After all, it is quite easy to feel worried or experience fear when dealing with something that may happen. Change from negative to positive by learning how to control your feelings and then encouraging better ones, such as optimism. It is a well-known fact that as you think, so you are. The same can be said about emotions and feelings. If your dominant thoughts are negative, then all manner of problems will beset you. If your emotions are also negative, this simply adds to the problem. The lesson is therefore one of changing negative thinking and calming down the emotions. Learn to control these and your life, and magical work will improve beyond measure. Imagination. The moon is connected to our ability to use our imagination, and in the same way as the moon reflects the light of the sun, so our imagination is used to reflect pictures back to our subconscious mind. It is perhaps the most powerful tool we possess, yet it is only too often abused, scorned, or ignored in favor of supposed reality. While there is little value in daydreaming, which shows the ability to imagine but without any control, there is much to be said for dreaming. Dreamers are often scorned and urged to be practical, yet in truth, those who dream of greater things are inevitably the ones who attain such things. It was a dreamer, Edison, who gave us electric light, and it was dreamers who put man on the moon. Perhaps a better term would be visionaries, for they saw beyond the obvious and ignored the supposed obstacles. Men of vision use their imagination to see what they want. They use their imagination not only to see such things, but to provide answers to problems. The only difference between an ordinary person who muddles through life and a visionary is that the latter takes time off from everyday life in order to dream of better things. You may not be an Edison or a Ford, but you do have the same tools at your disposal. It is all a question of widening your horizons, of thinking bigger and of dreaming of what you want rather than simply accepting life's handouts. Do not waste your time daydreaming. Exercise control by directing your imagination towards those things you would like to have. See yourself having them. Indulge in your visions and make them expansive. Success comes to those who know how to use the power of imagination to predict the future, not by depending on a fortune teller, but by seeing what they want to happen and persisting with the vision. Attuning to the Moon, Part 2. Having dealt with the mundane aspects of the moon, we must now look at ways in which we may increase our awareness of lunar energy. There are, of course, two ways to do this. Firstly, by attending to the physical correspondences used in the temple, and secondly, by attuning the imagination along the right lines. The main physical attributes are given at the end of this chapter, together with some suggested uses for lunar energy. They should be worked into the temple in a similar way to that mentioned in the previous chapters. Do remember not to rush. Take your time in planning your ritual, not forgetting to use your own ingenuity. It should also be noted that although silver is the metal of the moon, you need not use real silver. It is the color that matters. So it is quite correct to use equipment which is silver colored. In a similar way, it is not vital that you use pure jasmine for incense. Any good lunar incense will do, even if it uses artificial scent. In order to complete the attunement of the mind, we naturally have to attend to the inner work in the imagination. This is quite easy to do, although once again, it does need a little practice before it is effective. Use the opening procedure given in the master ritual, then burn some lunar incense or jasmine-scented joss sticks. Let your mind consider the moon itself. See this as a full moon shining down on the sea for a minute or so. In order to increase concentration, you may speak words which suggest that you are about to use the power of the moon. Here's an example which you may use. I declare that the intention of this ritual is, state intention, and that I now propose to attune my mind to those energies which are ruled by the moon. May the lunar energies respond to my will, turning needs into reality within the framework of cosmic law. Think about these words. Do not simply repeat them. Direct your mind to the upper point and see the crown. Here, a useful variation may be used. Imagine that this crown has 10 jewels set into it, one for each planet. Now see the silver jewel begin to glow, gradually getting brighter and brighter. Then say, may those energies which equate to the moon flow freely into manifestation. Direct your attention towards the eastern gate and see this energy enter the temple as silver light. Do the same with the other 3 gateways in turn. You may at each gate say, blessed be the power of the moon flowing through this. Name gateway, gate. Direct your attention towards the central pool. See this glow with the same silver light and say, now do I direct the mediating influence of my subconscious mind to send forth this power into the world. May it go forth in peace, harming no one and yet overcoming all obstacles in order that I may have state intention. See the pool turn into a fountain of silver light. See this flow out through the 4 gateways and then say, blessed be the power of the moon, now under the control of my subconscious mind. Direct your attention to the base and see the cube glow with silver light. You should now spend some time in positive creative thinking, seeing yourself having that which you desire, and knowing that this is indeed about to happen. At the conclusion, close down as suggested in the master ritual. The moon. Planetary symbol, the cup or chalice. Color, silver. Metal, silver or silver colored. Incense, jasmine, or any good quality lunar incense. Magical ritual uses. Digestive complaints, domestic problems, emotional problems, female disorders, glandular problems, insomnia, pregnancy, self-protection, dealing with the public. The moon is especially connected with the home and immediate surroundings. It also rules our habits and mannerisms. From an occult point of view, it rules the imagination and the memory.